My first myth today asked if it's true that Jingle Bells wasn't originally a Christmas song. There are few holiday songs better known across the world than Jingle Bells, but oddly enough, it's absolutely true. It wasn't originally a Christmas song. Originally, it was written by a guy who was basically writing an ode to his first winter without snow. There were no religious tones at all, unless you worship winter, which some of us kinda do. Writer James Pierpont penned this one in 1857 whilst living in Georgia, having just moved there from Massachusetts. And its original title is actually One Horse Open Sleigh. Most historians believe that this was actually just a song of thanksgiving that he wrote for his father's Sunday school class. And when you think about it, there are no Christmas references there, and it really does fit that idea of it being an ode to things that he missed. 2 years later, it was republished and retitled as Jingle Bells, but it would be nearly a century before this one became synonymous with Christmas. Once Bing Crosby recorded this one with the Andrews Sisters in 1943, that's basically what made it the world's most popular Christmas song. But for more than 100 years after it was written, this had no religious overtones at all. It was just about missing snow. My second myth asks if it's true that the band New Riders of the Purple Sage got their name from a book that John Dawson was reading when the band was forming. Now, for those who don't know, NRPS is basically an offshoot of the Grateful Dead. A ton of the members of that band played in the first incarnations of this group. It was often used as a jam vehicle in those years, but they also did some great music under their own name. Now, the reason they're called New Riders of the Purple Sage is because back in the 30s, there were actually two different bands, one in California and one in Pittsburgh, both called Riders of the Purple Sage. Both had country roots in their music. Their music is kind of well circulated, and there's no doubt that Dawson was very familiar with those groups. Then you of course have Zane Grey's 1912 novel, Riders of the Purple Sage, that he was probably reading at the time if the myth is true, as it's one of those books that most people agree formed the foundation for the Western genre. And that book was an inspiration for the names of the bands in the 30s. Stay with me here. So in terms of where Dawson drew the name from, you can't really be sure if it was one or the other, but you can be sure that it was one or the other. He certainly knew the book, he definitely knew the bands, and since they're so close together and he added the word new, you can say that that is 99% the source of origin. Whether it was the band is sort of secondary because the band took their name from the book, and I guess that's kind of all you need to know. My last question asks if it's true that the lyrics to the Beatles song Good Morning actually came from a TV cereal commercial. Coming from the second half of the Sgt. Pepper's record, it would seem a bit strange that one of the greatest writers in music history would use the television as his source of inspiration. But this one is actually 100% true, and John Lennon himself talked about it a number of times before his death. He said that at the time he often had the TV on in the background while he was writing, and little bits and pieces of it would come through into his music. And the title and the main refrain on this song came from a Kellogg's Cornflakes commercial at the time. No joke. This song is actually packed with a number of different TV references and an overall idea of being bored in suburbia like Lennon was at the time. So yeah, Good Morning absolutely comes from a Kellogg's Cornflake commercial. So those are my myths for this week. Be sure to check back here every Friday as I delve into some of the coolest stories in music history. If you've got a myth you want me to check out, you can email it to me at thedailyguru@gmail.com. You can follow me on Twitter and Facebook right here, and I'll see you guys again next time.